Chapter 1, Section 3 The Beginnings of Civilizations. Look at the shoes you are wearing and the shirt or sweater you have on today. Who made the fabric for your clothes? Who prepared the leather or canvas for your shoes? Who grew the grain for the cereal that you ate at breakfast? All of these jobs were done by people who have special skills: weavers, shoemakers, farmers. Think what life would be like if families had to do all of these things for just themselves. Questions I want you to think about as we read this section. How did early cities develop? And what is civilization? Key terms you can see in your notes that are provided through the Google Classroom will be irrigation, surplus, artisan, civilization, and social class. Under a fierce desert sun, long lines of people are digging out a long trench, soon to become a deep canal. Other people lift heavy baskets of dirt from the canal onto their shoulders. They dump the dirt near the river where another crew of men is building a huge earthen dam. These are some of the world's first construction workers. They are building an irrigation system, a network of canals to supply land with water from another place. One person directs the work at each site. Like the big construction projects of today, this job takes teamwork. Soon, the dam will hold the spring flood waters of the river. A group of people are building wooden gates in the dam. Officials will open the gates in the dry summer. Water will flow through the canals, irrigating the growing crops. Advantages of a settled life. Farming and raising animals was much harder than hunting and gathering. However, it had far greater rewards. Producing food allowed people to have a steady supply of food year-round. This meant they could stay in one place. People often had a food surplus. That meant they had more food than they needed. Surplus food could be stored for use at another time. The population grows. Having food surplus also affected the size of families. The hunting-gathering life did not allow parents to have many children. How could they feed them all? Now food surpluses would feed many more people. Larger families brought rapid population growth. Scientists estimate that about 10,000 years ago, the population of the world was about 10 million people, which is about the number of people living in Los Angeles today. By 7,000 years ago, many people had settled into the farming life. The population had grown to about 66 million. Early villages and towns. People lived in New Stone Age farming settlements for many centuries before towns developed. Gradually, as the population increased, the settlements grew larger. With food surpluses, people did not have to spend all their days producing food. Some people were able to switch from farming to other kinds of work. For example, some people became artisans, or workers who were especially skilled in making items such as baskets, leather goods, tools, pottery, or cloth. The growth of cities. Not all early farming settlements grew into cities. Cities could develop where rich soil created large surpluses of food. People also needed a dependable source of drinking water and materials to build shelters. Some of the earliest cities grew up along big rivers, such as the Nile in Egypt, the Tigris and Euphrates rivers in Iraq, the Huang He in China, and the Indus rivers in Pakistan. Cities grew up there because the soil for farming is rich near riverbeds. The earliest cities. The chart on the next page shows when the first cities developed in Asia, Africa, and the Americas. Early cities were different from farming villages in some important ways. Cities were larger, of course. Cities also had large public buildings. There were buildings to store surplus grain, buildings for the worship of gods, and buildings where people could buy and sell goods. In villages, most people were farmers. In cities, workers had a wide variety of occupations. Most worked at a craft. As new skills developed, so did new occupations. Governments form. As the population of cities grew, so did the need for effective rules. Someone needed to be responsible for keeping order. Others had to settle disputes or manage such things as irrigation projects. People developed government in order to keep their society and to provide services. The first civilizations. Over time, some New Stone Age societies grew into civilizations. A civilization is a society that has cities, a central government run by official leaders, and workers who specialize in various jobs. This job specialization leads to another feature of civilizations: social classes. Writing, art, and architecture also characterize a civilization. By 6600 BC, artisans in Europe and Asia had learned a key skill. They discovered that melting a certain rock at high temperatures would separate the metal copper from the rock. By 3000 BC, artisans had learned to mix copper with another metal, tin, to make a mixture called bronze. Because bronze was much harder than copper, it had more uses: weapons, tools, helmets, and shields. This began the Bronze Age. Here you see a picture of a series of bronze swords that was used during the Bronze Age. Trade helped civilization spread. Traders took valuable items such as pottery, tools and weapons, baskets, cloth, and spices to faraway cities. They traded these items for food and goods that people at home wanted. By around 3500 BC, some civilizations had developed a simple but amazing invention: the wheel and axle. With the wheel and axle, trade goods could be loaded into carts and pushed through the city to market. More goods could be transported farther and more easily. Trade over water also developed. Merchant ships now carried goods across seas and rivers. With this travel, people of many different cultures came into contact with one another. New tools and ideas from one society soon spread to others as people from different places traded information along with goods. Here you can see the sea and land trade routes from Europe into Africa and Asia and throughout the known world at that time. Social classes developed. Growing trade links brought new prosperity to the cities. This led to another major change in society: the development of social classes. Each person was part of a group or class made up of others with similar backgrounds, wealth, and ways of living. In the large cities, the king was by far the most powerful person. And in the chart we're looking at here, the king of Egypt would have been the pharaoh. Next in importance were two classes of people. One were the priests of the city's religion, and the others were the nobles, who were government officials and military officers. Below them were the artisans, small traders, and merchants. At the very bottom of the social ladder were the common workers and the farmers. Please make sure you filled in your notes that accompanied this video, and make sure to turn in to prove you completed the work through the Google Classroom. We'll see you tomorrow.